welcome back. It's Miss Allison here on day 2 of our art class here. I'm really excited to be doing these videos because they're actually a lot of fun and I really just love doing them with you guys. So today we are actually going to do one of my favorite mediums that I just talked about yesterday, watercolor. One of my favorite things to do. I actually have like 3 different ones to use and they all have like different finishes, so not sure which one I'm gonna do just yet. But today we're going to be drawing a butterfly. Now the nice thing with butterflies is that you can do like any color, they can look like any size, shape, whatever, because you know what, they're very unique and we all know that. So I was thinking about doing a monarch butterfly, but you know what, sometimes when you start drawing, things start changing and that could be a really good thing. So before we get started, obviously I have my paper. This is a special paper called watercolor paper. And if you really, it's really hard to see it like on the video, but basically watercolor paper kind of has some like grooves. It's kind of bumpy because it gives it like a nice little texture feel when everything dries. And it also, this paper holds up better than like using like copy paper, because copy paper will start kind of, wrinkling after a couple times when you're using it, because you're using a lot of water with this. Also, you're going to need a pencil, obviously, because how are we going to be able to draw this on here without using a pencil? I do have a couple brushes too. These are meant for watercolor, but you can kind of use whatever you have around the house if you're following along. I've also got my water here. You can use like a cup, really anything that you find around the house that you want to use. I also have some Kleenex here to kind of dampen my brush if I'm switching colors, or you can use like paper towels, even toilet paper. Just something to wipe your brushes with. And then obviously you're gonna need watercolor. I have 3 different ones today. This one is kind of a buildable one, so like when you start kind of add the color, you get to add more and more of it to get it to be very bold, which is behind what we're gonna use today. This one is also watercolor as well, but it doesn't need as much coverage with it because they're very bold right out of the pan. And then I have this little guy. This one has kind of a mix of all kinds of things, and I'll actually kind of open it so you guys can kind of look at it here. I can here. Hold on a second. It's a little tricky to open, but obviously you can tell it's kind of messy. I've been using it a lot. It's my favorite palette to use, so we might even be using this one today. So with that being said, also one of the biggest things too, even if you are using watercolor paper or if you're not, I always like to put something like at the bottom just in case it starts to bleed through, because that's going to be something that you're always going to deal with watercolor even when you have watercolor paper, because sometimes it starts to curl up. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and start drawing out our butterfly. So I'm going to get, and also if you're using an iPad or computer at home to do this, you guys know the drill. Get that stylus out, get that hand ready to go, and we're going to start drawing. So the first things first is we're going to want to draw our body. So I'm just going to kind of do a nice little oval. And this oval can be super thick, it can be super skinny, it can be big, little, whatever you're kind of feeling, you know? So I'm kind of feeling like a medium shape here, because I might be drawing the wings a little bit bigger. So that's what it's going to look like so far, is you're just going to have a nice little oval. And then we're going to kind of go with the wings. So like the wings are like my favorite part, because you really could do a whole lot with it. Some people like to kind of draw it where like they kind of look like the letter B. Some people may want to like have it like with our shamrock yesterday, kind of do like a half heart type of thing for it. Some people like to maybe draw like a nice little curve and then have like a tail come out. So it really depends on what you really want to do with this. But in this case, I'm going to be very basic with it and just draw kind of like the letter B. And you guys are going to see what I mean in a second here. So I'm going to go ahead, and I feel like people do see this one a lot more. So we're going to just kind of draw that curve out. So that's what it's going to look like so far. And the reason why I'm saying letter B is because that's kind of what it takes the shape of. And usually I like to, with butterflies, I kind of like to make that little last part here kind of hang out a little bit. So that's what it kind of looks like. If you guys really look at it, it does have like that form of letter B. But again, because butterflies are so unique, you guys can do whatever you want with the wings. And I'm actually going to go ahead and do the same thing on here. And the best part too with a lot of stuff in nature is the fact that things do not have to look the same. So it's okay if, you know, the wings are not identical, because you know what? A lot of stuff in nature is not identical either. And that's what makes them so unique. I'm gonna kind of go ahead and finish this, because the biggest thing when you're doing painting stuff or like watercolor or whatever is that you don't want to spend too long sketching it out, because ideally when you're coming in to paint this, you're going to be doing a lot more detail and colors and whatnot. So that's what I have so far. And obviously the one thing that we're missing here so far is just little antennas, and those are super easy to do. If you're using pencil, your stylus, finger, whatever, we're just going to have 2 little lines come out. So just 2 little lines. You can make them short, you can make them kind of medium size like mine, you can make them really long, up to what you're kind of feeling up to. And then we're just going to draw like 2 little circles. That's it. That's all we got so far. So with that being sketched out, like I said, you don't want to spend too much time sketching when you're going to go ahead and paint stuff. So at this point, what I'm going to probably do is I want to start off, I'm actually going to go ahead and use this one for now, just because I don't know if I want to have the colors be so bold right off the bat. So I'm going to actually get this out. This actually comes with a little baby brush here. So actually, it's a 2-piece thing. And sometimes I like using this if I'm using really small areas. I'm going to get my water, which is all the way over here. So the biggest thing with watercolor is you always want to wet your brush first, or else there's no way you're going to be able to pick up the color here. When we start with this butterfly, I don't have a lot of like colorful kind of things, so this I might be using for just the body part and then come back to the other ones for color. So I'm actually going to probably go in with maybe like a brown, I'm thinking. So I'm going to go ahead and get that wet. And sometimes what I like to do is that I like to kind of like put it on the Kleenex a little bit just to see like how dark it's gonna be. And then I'm gonna just kind of get it on there. So when you kind of, sometimes it depends on the watercolor that you're using. But see how it's kind of like, you can see it's there, but it's not super dark, but it's not super transparent as in very light, which is what I kind of want here. Another technique that you can use too is you can wet your brush and you can actually put the water down on here so that that's already ready to go. So then when you actually go into your color, you can just kind of get it right on there. Sometimes that's a little quicker and a little easier to do. Then wet your brush, get that pigment on, and then realize, oh no, this is too much. That's kind of what we have so far. Sometimes in watercolor, people want to outline, some people don't. It really depends. In this case, I might be outlining, but I want to wait till everything is kind of laid out before I go ahead and do that. Because if I do that with the wing, like without doing the wings yet, by the time I get to that part, everything's going to bleed together. So I want to kind of wait it out. So far we have that. We're going to actually go ahead and start working with our wings here. And I think that I'm going to actually start off, I'm probably going to do blue. I think I'm going to do blue and maybe a little red. So in my mind, I'm kind of thinking maybe the red, since it's lighter than blue, to kind of have it at the top and then do blue at the bottom. So I've actually got 2 different blues here, so I have to remember which ones are which here, guys. This one's more like a, okay, good. So this one's kind of like a lighter blue. I also have like a color in here that's kind of teal. And part of the reason why we have the Kleenex or paper towel or whatever you're using is the fact that sometimes you may put down too much, and I might make an example of that later on when we use the other palette for this. And that's okay. Sometimes that happens when you're doing watercolor. It's a lot of like, the biggest thing with watercolor is that it's just building up a lot. Which is kind of what you're seeing here. Like I'm starting off light and then just kind of gradually working my way up. And see how like now this is a little bit darker. Like if I were to start off like that and realize, oh, well, this is a little too dark for me, you can take like your Kleenex and kind of like, I'll actually show you guys too. You can kind of ball it up a little bit, kind of go like this, and it picks it up. So if you were to do too much and then take your brush and kind of smooth it out. So if you didn't mean to put too much pigment on there. So that's kind of what I have so far. With me, when I do watercolor, some people like to really have bold colors. For me, I really like to just have like nice little like transparent, like hence the reason with the watercolor name, I just like to have it just very like, just kind of buildable. I don't like starting off very bold, and I like the whole like watercolor effect to it. So I have like that part there, and then since I'm still using the blue, I'm actually going to just go ahead and do the other side. And if you guys want, you guys can actually do all kinds of colors with this. So if you're not feeling like matching, you know what, that's okay. Sometimes when I'm doing drawings and everything, I mean, I want something to look just like how I want it to. And sometimes too, is like, obviously this is like a little baby brush. So sometimes if I feel like I'm not covering enough, I'll even go in and grab like another like bigger brush to kind of pick up some stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. To cover like some more ground. And the thing is too with your sketch with watercolor is that it's okay for it to kind of go outside the lines, because that actually would look really pretty when you're actually going in, letting it dry, because it gives like a nice, actually you could probably see it. So I'm gonna really try to zoom in, like right in here, it's going outside the lines. And for me personally, I like when it does that, because it gives it a nice little like artistic like little style to it. And that's, I love that. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna kind of dig into our red. So this red that I have here is a little bit, it's not completely like red. It's more like a rustic, kind of almost like a pink kind of red. And the two colors that I'm using, they are actually, they actually start off right off the bat, like they start off very like transparent, which is really good for what I'm doing. But some of you guys may be using, if you're following along with me, some of you guys may be doing something like this where right off the bat they're very, very bold. And I'm actually going to kind of let it like blend right into the blue. So kind of like at this point what I like to do is I kind of go back and forth, like do blue, do red, kind of mixing it up to blend it out. So now I'm going to kind of come in on this side. And the key thing too is that I used to be, when I would do watercolor in college and stuff, I used to think that, oh my gosh, I have to get all of this shading done before it dries, and if I don't, it's not gonna look right. You know, it's actually okay. It's actually better if you wait, let it dry down a little bit, and then come back to it, because I've learned the hard way, where I was working on something really, really hard and then realized that the paper was balling up. It was starting to kind of like get all crumply, and I'm like, what's happening? And I remember my art instructor telling me, well, you know, it's because you're putting too much water down, you're putting it once, and that you need to let it dry down for like a minute or two before you kind of go back to it. So I was like, oh, okay. So now that I've started doing that, now it's like, okay, this makes a lot more sense now. So now I'm actually going to go back into my blue. If you haven't noticed, this is Miss Allison's like favorite thing to do, because the best part about it is like compared to like ink, which I'm actually going to be doing for a video at some point. Watercolor, you cannot mess it up. There is no way that you can do that. And if you somehow do, it looks really good. So like if I were to put the wrong color here, or if I'm going outside the lines, it still looks really nice. you may see that, oh, this is a mistake, but to other people, they'll be like, oh my gosh, that is like so cool. Okay, so far this is kind of what we have. And because I kind of have like the blue and red going here, I might even kind of add it into the brown, because right now the brown's kind of sticking out. And you don't have to do this. I mean, with me, I kind of like to do some like kind of color like have a kind of nice color scheme going on here. So if I've got some like blue going on, I may try to throw it into other places so the colors kind of marry each other. So that's kind of what I have so far. So see how now when I put that blue down, it kind of looks like it's all like nothing's really sticking out too much. I am going to go back one more time with like the red and the blue just to kind of build up that color. But I don't want to go too crazy because I'm really liking how it's a little transparent. So I'm actually going to go back in with the red one more time. And the thing is too with watercolor is that you don't have to, like one spot, like it does not have to be even, which is like one of my favorite things with it too. And in Monday's little video, I believe, I have to double check, but I think that I am doing acrylic, which is probably one of my least favorites, just because it's a little harder to work with. But I'm actually really excited because I have not worked with it in a while, so you know what? We're going to be learning new things together. Kind of darken that a little bit. Kind of do that, and then I think when that comes through, we're gonna actually maybe do a nice little outline too to kind of finish it up. You can add like little details, so I might even go ahead with this and just maybe add some dots or so to it. But I think I'm gonna switch palettes with that before I do that, just because this is more transparent. So I'm gonna finish this one up. I'm gonna go back to my brown real quick. And now I remember that this brown's a little like on the dark side of stuff. So I'm gonna kind of come in. And for this, it doesn't exactly like, it's coming off the line, which is fine. Like I'm fine with that going on. But some people may not be, and that's okay. And then I think I'm gonna go back in with the blue. Kinda. And see how it kinda looks like it's a little on the dark side? We're gonna just kinda blend it back down just a little bit. Okay. So this is kinda what I have so far. And then I don't think I'm personally going to outline it. I really like how it's looking right now, but one of the finishing touches that I want to do with it is I do want to kind of use this palette here, if I can open it. Also, the biggest thing with watercolor is no matter how much you try to keep clean, it doesn't always work out that way. So I'm going to go ahead and grab, let's see here. I think I'm gonna grab my red here. And now this is very pigmented, so I'm gonna kind of drop it down a little bit. We're gonna add, like up here, we're gonna add some like, we're actually gonna go in a little bit more. We're gonna make some dots just to kind of like add some little design to our butterfly here. Kind of go back into my red again. And then because we got blue down here, we're gonna come in and use our blue. If you guys haven't noticed, like this is definitely my favorite because I have like 3 different palettes. So that should say a lot about me, guys. Okay. And then we're gonna kind of go back into our blue here, make some more dots. That's kind of what we have right now. Okay. And then I think that I'm gonna probably kind of fix that up a little bit. And just for the heck of it, we're gonna make it like some bigger dots here. So maybe do like a couple dots here, couple here. And then we're gonna go back to our red. Make some dots here. And then we're gonna go ahead and do up here. Okay, so that's what we have so far. And the finishing touch that I always like to do is I like to, if I have like a nice like blue here, what I'm gonna do, go back into my blue and to kind of add some movement. So I'm actually gonna kind of like make some little lines to kind of add some movement that he's flying around and out in like the garden, the yard, kind of just make it look like he's kind of moving around. And the biggest thing that you always do, and I always emphasize it in my last video, is to always sign your name, to take pride in your stuff. And that could be in any color that you want. So you know what? I'm actually gonna do, today I think I'm gonna sign with green. So I'm gonna kind of dampen my brush here. And we're gonna sign it right here. We're gonna do that. Rinse my brush off. And there you go, guys. There's your awesome little butterfly. Really enjoyed doing watercolors. There's gonna be a lot more where that came from. If I remember correctly, Monday, I think our next thing that we are drawing is a flower. I have not decided what kind of flower we're doing, but it's going to be an acrylic paint, which, like I've said, that's probably one of the hardest mediums for me to work with. So we're gonna be on a nice learning experience together Monday. In the meantime, I'm gonna upload this, I'm gonna send it to you guys, and I hope you guys are all still doing well, and I will all see you Monday. Peace out.